A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. It's been an event-packed week, in a week when we saw King Oyo celebrated 21 years on the throne. Toro lost a prince in Prince Jimmy Mugenyi. President Yoweri Museveni celebrated his 72nd birthday. Parliament had another demonstration with pigs being thrown at the floor, outside the gate of Parliament. And of course, in the House, a motion to present a bill to lift the age limit was thrown out. But it's also the week when we saw the release of a report on an audit of 100 days of the National Resistance Movement. Actually, it is now more than 100 days, more above 120 days, because it's been more than 4 months since the NRM was sworn in into this town. But focus has been on the institution of Parliament, because the debate about emoluments for members of Parliament, their demand for vehicles, their travel, and funeral expenses have all been on the spotlight for discussion. That's what we'll be focusing on tonight as we take stock of that audit. We audit the audit, but also with a much more focus on the institution of Parliament. Let me introduce with me tonight my colleague Onapito Ekomoloit. This patriotism of viewers these days still in the national colors.
Yes, the cranes.
The crane.
Yes.
Very nice to have you.
We come. Yes, Charles, good evening. I'm just having a cold, so I'm keeping my cup very tightly, just to make sure my voice does not fail along the way. Yeah.
Okay. You were missing in action last week. You didn't account for your absence.
Well, I was in Asalatap.
In Asalatap.
My village. I saw it. I heard you talking about Toro. You didn't mention anything about Teso. So.
About Teso. I'm the only person who has held a show focusing on Teso before. But now I had to talk about Toro because, of course, we congratulate the king on the 21 years, and we mourn with the royal family on the loss of Prince Jimmy Mugenyi.
Indeed.
I think Toro also lost the chairman of the FDC for the district, a very well-respected lawyer, Msana.
Our
during the week.
condolences.
Yes.
Our condolences.
Eunice Musime is executive director of the Akina Mama of Africa. Eunice, very nice to have you.
Thank you and good evening, viewers.
And of course, long lost from the show, this is one of our exports. The
comeback kid. Welcome back, Chris.
Chris Obore making comeback to the fourth estate.
Yes, they say east or west. Home is the best.
Yeah, we are getting worried that you had lost
But
your
it's not
roots.
for Irene to hear. Remember, you are the only journalist to have ever held a show dedicated to Teso issues.
Yes.
And Anapito promised to provide you the best produce from Teso to take care of you.
He's yet to deliver on that.
I will.
It's been a few years, but he has not delivered on that yet.
Yes.
Chris Obore is now the Director Communication and Public Affairs, Parliament of Uganda. Chris,
Yes.
I want to start with you. You speak for Parliament. We've seen Parliament at the center of controversy. Ugandans are asking one question. With all this controversy, in the past 4 months, what have you been up to? The only bill that has been presented to that Parliament, proposal to present a bill so far in 4 months, is Kafero Sekitoleko's bill on lifting age limit. But we hear about cars. You started at, in the 9th Parliament, it was 105 million. At the beginning of this Parliament, it was 150 million. Now it has ballooned to 200 million. You want to spend 68 million on burial for members of Parliament. You travel. You buy tickets of $5,200. I don't know which airline flies that, but those are the tickets you're buying. What exactly is going on around Parliament?
It's a cocktail of things happening in the Parliament. And it is not that there's nothing going on. Remember, the same Parliament has already recovered the UBC land title. True or false?
Did it?
Yeah. They have recovered the UBC land title.
I thought the last title had been cancelled. So where would you recover it from?
They forced someone to deliver the UBC title. You had the story of goats and everything. It is the same Parliament. In other words, Parliament doesn't work only through plenary. The best functioning Parliament works through a committee system. And the committees have been working. People have been appearing before committees to answer. And that is not a lie. It is verifiable. So it is not correct to say nothing has been happening in Parliament. That bill, again, is the same Parliament which threw it away, which is a positive thing for us to see. So in terms of what they have done, I think it is not correct to say it's only about money. The committees are working. It demoralizes those would be allies of pro-service delivery, who are already there doing something, to be lumped together to say they are doing nothing. So I think they needed to do the approach of appreciative inquiry. That, okay, this is so far this good. However, because of the gravity of the issues, this is what we want to see done. I would go with that approach of appreciative inquiry, and we leave the general one of saying there's nothing they have done. So coming to the actual issues, ticketing, it is a concern even of the Parliamentary Commission. It is not about Parliament. All government agencies, I must inform you, are charged exorbitantly for air tickets because of the procurement regime. You get the point? So the travel agents are deliberately hitting government agencies. And that is not a Parliament business. Parliament does not determine procurement regulations. It's handled under finance.
As a former investigative journalist, Chris, you and I know that when you find that government is being cheated, then you go to look through the processes of procurement.
Of course.
And kickbacks.
No, not for Parliament to be cheated. The argument is you have to pre-qualify firms first. Those are the firms you have to work with to get any service for government. Even if there is a cheaper travel agency, the rules dictate you go with the pre-qualified ones. So that is the problem government is facing. It is only that people are looking at Parliament as where the wastage is. It is big elsewhere. And Parliament, you know, Charles, does most of the business is executive.
Thank you very much. You used the word I was looking for.
Yes.
I had been avoiding to use, and as I bring Eunice into this discussion. The bigger question Ugandans are grappling with is in the first 4 months of the NRM, wastage, excessive use of public resources, and little in terms of delivery on what exactly the government is supposed to be doing. And the spotlight has been on Parliament recently. You read or you followed through the audit report that was presented on Friday, which is looking at a lot of promises in this Kisanja Kuna Mchezo, and people asking, is this just another slogan? Is there seriousness? And you look for that seriousness in the executive, you look for that Hakuna Mchezo in Parliament, you look for that Hakuna Mchezo in the judiciary. Do you see it? Do you find it? Chris has used the word wastage of public resources, and that's why Parliament is on the spotlight.
Thank you, Charles. I think the audit that was done by Uganda Governance Monitoring Platform, which is a consortium of NGOs or civil society that come together to monitor governance, concluded that actually it's not Kisanja Hakuna Mchezo, but it's more of the same. But on a positive note, I think, to start from where Chris left off, we need to be positive. The president has done a lot because the audit really focused on Museveni's first 100 days. So it was from the background, the American system where they do an audit of 100 days and look at what are the big ideas or the big innovations that the president has done in the first 3 months to take the country forward. And it's from the angle and the focus that the country, Roosevelt then was coming in after recession, and he needed to do something big and different to lift the country. So I think it was
1933.
Yes, 1933. So the NRM audit that was done by UGMP again was from that angle that Uganda has been going through tough times. We're not growing at the same economic rate as we should be going, 7.2%. So it was to say, what is it that the president is promising in his Kisanja Hakuna Mchezo that is going to be different? And the conclusion was, yes, he's done a lot, he's promised a lot, but we still see him doing more of the same thing, going to the market vendors and giving them 100 million or so, which are not addressing the systemic issues in our system, and therefore not going to be transformative. So it's still wastage of money. So you give out 100 or you give another 100. Actually, one of the presenters at the launch said Museveni is a moving ATM. So he goes out dishing out money. And so in that sense, it's not leading to
Hakuna Mchezo.
Yeah.
Or the transformation that is.
Or the transformation that is needed. Yeah.
Okay. Ona, I don't know if you followed through that audit of the first 100 days. And with Chris here, we need to focus a little bit more on Parliament, but broadly audit government as government, because for your guys in Asalata, they don't know the division where one government starts and another.
Yeah, I did not
another
follow
ends.
closely,
Yes.
but what I know, maybe my guys in Asalta would give Yoweri Museveni credit for is that, remember, by the time he started his term, there was a lot of political uncertainty. His victory was challenged strongly by his opponents, and some people thought the center would not hold. There was quite a concerted effort by Kizza Besigye to dispute and challenge the victory. So I think, first of all, what Ugandans have always got used to is this sleeping peacefully. And well, that seems to have been achieved once more. The country is back to business as usual. At least people do their own things, whether you are poor, whether you are rich, but you can wake up to certainty. So for the ordinary person, that is always what they have known Yoweri Museveni for, and it means that he's back to usual business. Of course, some of us have never given the government a chance in terms of really doing anything more serious. You know, I'm a strong critic of the whole machinery of public service delivery. Can't work, you know, because I inherently believe that for it to work, those who are charged must be genuinely feeling pressure tonight, that will they wake up to the safety of their jobs? Will they get a bonus if they don't meet targets? There must be a sense of pressure. But unfortunately, the nature of government is that there isn't adequate pressure on individuals who are holding positions to deliver. So it's unlikely to be anything dramatic. Of course, the president has to, coming out of elections, he has to appear like there's going to be some new momentum. But I suspect it's again going back to the usual business.
Let me tell to Chris. Chris, Honor has been raising this issue for a very long time. Who goes to bed tonight? People watching us. People in positions of responsibility. You have the biggest collection of people in positions of responsibility around just across the road here. Parliament building. 427 members. How many of them actually spending sleepless nights, worrying about what needs to be done to make this country a better country? And that's why you find a lot of debate around why spend a lot of time debating a vehicle of 200 million shillings in such an impoverished country, and people asking, what is the return on that investment?
I think first of all, it's not 200 million. The money that we budgeted for, because I can speak for it, because I sit in the Board of Management of Parliament. That is the technical organ that does the technical work before the commission, the political organ, approves and forwards to the Minister of Finance. Our budget is 150 million.
So where did the 200 million come from?
That 200 million is perhaps from the forces that have orchestrated this avalanche of attack. Maybe it's meant to anger the public further. But what we budgeted for is 150 million, which has been promised by finance that only 100 will be availed this financial year. So even the vehicle they're talking about is going to be bought in installments. But remember, it is not that they are clamoring for a vehicle. We need to put the broader context to the debate. Charles Mwangushi has got a job in the East Africa. And that job says, when you come, we'll provide you a workstation. There will be a computer, who will give you a motorcycle to facilitate your work. That was the basis of your coming. So when you arrive to the office, you are simply saying, hey, I want to start work. Why is the motorcycle? Because I have work to do. This is what MPs are saying. It is not that this is a creation they are clamoring for. And you know, government works on, here civil service terms and conditions of service, and then the hierarchy, the protocol, all these rules are there. Some of those MPs are not party to those government regulations. They have found them there, that when you are head of civil service, this is what comes to you. 2 maids, a driver, then a askari, then all of these. You get it? When you are this level, this is what comes to you. When you are this level, what comes to you. For members of parliament, I've explained before here, the regulations provide that they are entitled to a vehicle of 4cc. Their level is a permanent secretary in terms of a vehicle. And when we look at the vehicles urban sectors are driving today, to be honest, Charles, they are almost 400 million. And if they give you that vehicle as a person to be a government property, they also give you a driver. So like having an organization, this vehicle, for an MD. It is not hers. If it is not hers, then provide her a driver, give the fuel, repair it. That route to me, as a citizen, is very expensive. How can government buy a vehicle of 400 million to give to the MPs, then they hire drivers? And a driver per night, the cost is 55,000 allowance if they are out of station. Moreover, an MP is required to go to Carbon to consult his people. If he spends 2 weeks consulting, you pay a driver for those 2 weeks. If the car breaks down there, you bring them to the garage, you give MP another one. And they said, no, it's better to have a grant. Give them the money. If they choose to buy a car of a higher level, then they top. If they buy the one of a lower level, that is their gain. But they suffer with their driver, with their fueling, with everything. Mm-hmm. This is why the MPs are saying, please, give it to us. Or the other option would be, you just buy the vehicles, then we use them. After 5 years, you take back.
You know what you want to do
but
with the
it will be written off, Charles. We have seen how other sectors of government have abused these vehicles.
Let me pose this broader question.
Yes.
A country as impoverished as this country, yes, we can talk about the tremendous progress we think we have registered over the last, 3 decades or so. Should leadership be reduced to a debate on what type of vehicle someone is driving above service delivery?
I like that very much.
Yes.
That is why I've been faulting the critics of Parliament. They would be now saying, demanding an overhaul of the whole setup, such that you're not seen to be targeting only MPs. But we see wastage in other sectors. Yeah, we do the stories in the Bonta together. Vehicles are imported to help run ministries. They are driven for 6 months. They remove something, hide in a garage. The next thing you hear, disposal of scrap.
And they actually leave it in the yard,
yeah,
so that you can see the evidence
then
of the road.
Then the same vehicle is with an officer, has a private vehicle. So we should overhaul the whole system.
But this is a debate that should be beginning at Parliament.
No, again, you miss the point.
Why not?
Why you miss it here is, the nature of Parliament work is, the majority of Parliament business is government business. If Eunice Musime, a very zealous MP, wants to move something, private members bill, get clearance from finance.
The most zealous we have seen is Robert Kafero Sectoleco with his bill on age limit.
You get the point. They will tell Musime, do you have a certificate of financial implications? So she gets curtailed. Then still you have to seek government interest in what you're doing. So you don't say you MPs are not doing anything like this. If government had brought it, remember Honorable T. Casimire, he had brought the same bill. We were still in the monitor. We did the stories that let's adopt the Rwanda model. We change ownership of public vehicles. Even civil servants, the borrowers want, give them a loan to buy a car. Then after that, they own it. We only give them fuel. It was defeated.
But Charles,
yes,
when it comes to Parliament, I think
you were in Parliament.
Yeah,
I was in
Parliament, and I really understand it. And I think the debate is wider. It really starts from, of course, for every expenditure, it's really about the magnitude. And the biggest driver of cost in Parliament now is the size of Parliament.
Yeah.
And where does the problem start? It starts from our own societal problem. This Parliament has been expanded partly because people have emotionally supported that having an extra Parliament in their, an extra MP in their area is a good thing. They celebrate, and you may say the president or the NRM has played to that emotional requirement and given more MPs. So you have a bloated Parliament, which people sadly have supported, and then the expectations of the MPs are distorted. People think they can come and get money and go and get back to them, support them on personal issues. So the MPs themselves have people have wrong expectations of them. Some of them actually get shocked to find that there isn't that much money in Parliament when they come there. They get indebted. So I think the crisis starts from the size of Parliament. surely a 200 million vehicle is not something to write about in this town. I mean, many people are having cars of $500 million and more. But it must, if you have 100 members of parliament, I'm sure it will be manageable. But with 500, close to 500 MPs, it's going to be unmanageable. So we need actually by addressing the issue of size of parliament.
Okay.
And people across the country should accept that the size of parliament should be reduced.
Eunice, let me come to you briefly before you take a break. Where does leadership come in? At every level, not just parliament, not just members of parliament or the president. Where does leadership come in?
Yeah, I think at every level, everyone should be responsible. We saw some comments by members of parliament saying it's our right. But even the ordinary woman who dies while giving birth to life, it's also her right to life. So if you say it's your right, you should have a cow of 500 million because it's your right, then where is the leadership? So at every level, I think even if we say it's a whole system that is broken down, I think our members of parliament, as our representatives, need to show. They need to walk the talk. So I think we're greatly disappointed that they're not even trying to prioritize service delivery over their stomachs.
Is that their stomachs, or is it facilitation to do their work? That's what Chris was explaining.
But yeah, what facilitation to do what work? We could actually take the argument further and say, how has Parliament performed, the 9th Parliament or the 8th Parliament, for it to justify the expenditure that is being invested in this institution? Because we could say, actually, where service delivery is at the councillors. How much are councillors getting? Because it's also their work. They should also be facilitated.
Chris, if you could indulge me, because the producer tells me you need to take a quick commercial break. I will spare Chris one discussion, because if you think through it carefully, the money for the funeral expenses, 68 million as a block looks like a lot of money. But you surely don't expect 427 MPs to die in one term for Parliament to be able to spend all that money.
So, yes, especially when they get comfortable cars, the chances of dying will reduce.
No, I thought through that part of the discussion. They said maybe 68 million funeral expenses. Funerals are becoming expensive on MPs, but you don't expect that so many will die to warrant.
Even the 68, we estimated for only 5. In the event that 5 die, that is the money that maybe 68 can be taken in the funeral of an MP. That means taking care of the family, the mourners, until the burial. And you know how many people turn up to a burial of a public person. They are never...
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be continuing the discussion about are these expenditures justified? We'll be right back. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we're talking about the NRM audit, the first 100 days of the National Resistance Movement, based purely on the report done by the Uganda Governance Monitoring Platform. But Parliament is on the spotlight because all the profligacy, all the wasteful expenditure is being viewed largely through the lenses of what our members of Parliament are asking for themselves. A 200 million shillings car, Parliament, as Chris says, and I agree with him, Parliament budgeted 150 million shillings. That's what the Parliamentary Commission talked about. But apparently a group of MPs had a meeting with the President and said, but you see, you can give us a little more. He said, why don't you give us? Cars are expensive. You need cars of 200 million shillings. And that's the discussion apparently finance has been having. Parliament has also budgeted to spend at least 68 million shillings in case a member of Parliament dies. The estimate by Parliament is maybe 5 parliamentarians might die in a 5-year cycle. No, per year. In a year. And if those die, then you spend about, buy a decent casket, provide for tents and funeral expenses, band, security and other things like that at 68 million shillings. Parliament has also been on the spotlight over the entourage it sent to the Uganda North American Convention. Now, there were actually about 3 conventions that took place. One convention, the main UNA convention, took place in Boston. That's where the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, and a team from Parliament went. There was another convention because that group split up in California. They also had a convention where the leader of opposition in government and some other MPs attended, and then after that there was a branch UNA convention in London.
It's called the UK convention.
The UK convention.
Trade.
Yes, of Ugandans in the diaspora. Eunice, I wanted to come back to you. You're talking about the woman who is dying because she can't get decent medical attention to deliver safely in a government facility has a right to life. That's one thing. And the question is, if you're spending 200 million shillings on buying a vehicle for a member of parliament for a period of 5 years, members of parliament don't promise. When they are seeking for elections, they are presenting our problems as the things that are number one on their priorities to solve once they get into position of leadership, like any elected person. When they arrive in parliament in the first 4 months, what we are seeing is debate about cars, debate about travel, debate about funeral expenses. How does that fit into the discussion? And you in civil society have been raising these issues.
Parliament had an opportunity in June when the budget was being passed to show that this was a parliament with a difference. But we see, for example, a sector like agriculture, the per capita income that was increased for the sector wasn't that much. If you look at health, the monies that were given to health were not that much. And these are the sectors that affect the ordinary person. If you look at education, we all know that statistics for education, 60% make it to P5 and then maybe 30% fall out by P7. So these are the sectors we would want to see our parliament focusing on. Unfortunately, we don't see that focus. We don't see enough focus on that. Instead, we see a lot on public administration. So as a country, we want to ask the question, should we be prioritizing public administration, or we should be prioritizing service delivery? And for me, that's what would be the hakuna mchezo. So I think on that note, Parliament has failed us. And the good thing with the NRM audit, I think it came quite at the right time. It's just the first days. If you're to think of, what do they call them, beginning of term exams. So they have an opportunity in the next 4 years to maybe in the midterm and in the end of the term to show that this is a parliament with a difference. We
Chris,
all
Yes.
answer that question. You've missed an opportunity as parliament to show that the 10th parliament is a parliament with a difference.
I don't even need to belabor much. This is the Uganda national budget, sector nominal allocations, 2016-2017, to show that parliament took that step of service delivery. Security is 1.5 trillion shillings allocation. It is here. Works and transport, 3.8 trillion shillings. Agriculture, 24 billion. Education, where everyone talks about children, 2.7 trillion. Health, 1.8 trillion. Accountability sector, 1.2 trillion. Justice, law and order, 1.2 trillion. These are verifiable figures, Charles. Public sector management, 1.1 trillion. Public administration, 537 billion. Legislature, 318 billion. Interest payments due, 6.4 trillion. Now, you cannot say that a budget is a policy instrument. It indicates where the priorities are. If the budget says health has 1.8 trillion, it is not fair to say these fellows care about nothing. Service delivery is not, do we want to see MPs after giving 3.8 trillion to works? Do we want to see them driving tractors, going to open the roads and we see they are working?
Chris,
And you know how government is structured.
let me ask.
Please do.
What do those numbers you've just rolled out mean?
It means...
To an ordinary person,
Exactly.
what
Let me
do they
explain.
mean?
They mean that MPs have put money to health ministry. It is in the health ministry where the technical people to give a service to the people are. So when the money has gone there, Parliament does not supervise how it is used until Auditor General brings them a report. The government has got an internal audit department under the Ministry of Finance to look at how that money is being spent. So you don't expect MPs now, after giving the money, then they also go to Malago and look at patients and treat them because they're on the floor. There's actually a separation of power. They will eventually come back to the same budget.
Thank you very much.
Through a process that is very clear, Charles.
Thank you very much.
And the process
Where should the debate around Parliament today be? Should it be about how you have facilitated Parliament to do its job, or what those members of Parliament actually promised voters they were going to do in that Parliament?
They promised to fight for Hebrew service delivery. How did they fight for it? in advising the executive on where to place the money. And you can see the executive has placed money where services are expected. If there are no roads in the Fort Portal, Charles, there is a full district engineer in the Fort Portal. If there are no health services, there is a district of services there. What Parliament does is to help in appropriation. And evidence on the figures itself shows that even when we have little money as a country, they have tried to be rational by putting money where it should be. I expected us to begin asking, why are we paying 6.4 trillion in interest due when we are being told even the loans were not absorbed?
Where should those
It
questions
is
be
not
asked?
that MPs have starved other sectors of money. Other sectors we are now being told that are not using the money.
Please.
Of course, Charles,
Yes.
in an ideal world, it's not entirely, as Chris says, that the MPs, after getting money allocated, have to wait for the Auditor General's reports, which unfortunately come 3 years later. They also have a day-by-day opportunity to put ministers, who are the political heads of ministries, on the spot, and ministers are part of the House. They could actually get a minister fired if after money was allocated to a ministry, things are not happening. But unfortunately, you know that the nature of government in this part of the world, executive and parliament are fused. They have same agenda. There is collective responsibility beyond even cabinet. So you can see that the system doesn't work as Chris is outlining. So, and the people who elected the MPs have this false notion that MPs can get ministries to do what they should do.
But ideally,
but unfortunately, they don't manage to get them to do it.
The people of Salatap, the people of Amuria, when they sent you to parliament, you are the guy who unlocks the doors for them, who ensures that the health center has medicines and the health workers are there and they actually
absolutely
now,
on the paper.
Just a moment. Now, if you have a situation where the health facilities don't have medicine, don't have health workers who are working, at least the president demonstrated that when he decided to fire those poor people at the Nakauchi, the Nakauchi Health Center. They are not working, there are no medicines. The LC is not helping, district chairperson is not helping, the member of parliament is not helping, and what the president has been doing, as Eunice said, move like an ATM, arrive in Katwe, touch in his pocket and says, give me my envelope, hands over, 100 million shillings. Now, where does that leave?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
The process Chris is describing is the one you would say follow the money. The MP would have to follow the money. But I think truly the system somehow gets clogged along the way. That's why I've been having a bit of argument that maybe, knowing our reality, that the MPs should also be championing direct government, where the MP is an elected person, a civil servant in the ministry is not an elected person, so his method of satisfying the voter is indirect. Maybe you need to actually give the MPs more ability to get services to the people, so that you have direct government. Because for so many years we have tried indirect government, whereby you elect a leader and you expect him to influence resources from taxes to come back to you, and it is not working.
So basically what you're saying, Honor, is if the budget for parliament is 380 what billion?
18.
318 billion. The budget for electing members of parliament, we spent about how much? 168 billion?
Something.
Yes, to go through elections. Then we could save actually that money without going through these motions of elections and having a parliament. How does it help?
That's one
Is
route.
that-
But I'm also saying,
Exactly that.
instead of giving health 1.8 trillion,
Or
maybe you need to
agriculture.
increase the allocation to parliament with a mandate to actually make sure that the health centers have drugs.
Then you can know that parliament has failed or not.
How does that work, Eunice? Because you've taken away, you've literally taken away agriculture extension work and handed it over to the military through NADS and Operation Wealth Creation.
Which is not part of parliament.
It's not part of parliament.
No, which is not part of parliament. I'm looking at governance broadly. If you do that, do you think that actually works?
No, it's definitely
I and
not
Chris,
working.
as journalists at the Monitor, we did an audit of agencies, creations around State House and the presidency. You have a problem with lands, you create a lands directorate. There is one behind here, I think, under the president's office. You have a problem with agriculture, you create OWC. You have a problem with health service delivery, you create health monitoring. You have a problem with this, do you think that actually helps the country?
And recently from Munyonyo, they said they have a problem with monitoring and they are going to create a unit within the presidency, again, to focus on monitoring. So it's really a dysfunctional system that is not going to deliver any positive outcomes in terms of service delivery. And so I think that's where we should go back to how do we make the system function. And I don't think members of parliament are better placed to deliver services.
Just, Eunice, my argument is most of those institutions, in my view, have failed to deliver because they are not directly accountable to the people. The only institution which is really accountable to the people is parliament, because it gets turned over by them during every election cycle. Guys in finance have been there for 30 years, in some ministries have been there for 30 years. Their job security is guaranteed. Whether they don't deliver, nothing changes. But if you're a member of parliament, I'm doing a Boris job now, they will vote you out on the perception that you have not done your job, which job was supposed to actually be done by a public servant.
So what is the job of member of parliament? You were there.
Right now, the voter, the real job of parliament is to legislate and to allocate resources. But the voter expects you to be the one to ensure that schools are working, health centers are working, which in reality is outside your absolute ability. Maybe 50% within your control, 50% outside your control.
That's exactly the question I've been asking.
And when did that change? When did the voter begin expecting service delivery from the member of parliament?
That's the reality of our... In fact, even the president goes ahead and says if things are not happening because you have a useless MP.
But then maybe let's look for where are things working. For example, if you look at the National Water and Sewage Corporation, maybe you can say that it's one of the agencies that seem to be working. Why is it working? We need to ask those questions, and it goes back to leadership.
So you can say that the Minister of Water is working.
No.
Chris, it is because the technical person there has the right competence. I can tell you, I know Silver. Silver has the right competence, has the right attitude. That is why National Water is working. It is not because he's MP. He's not working. The person you put there has different character.
Let me ask.
Yes, and then
the difference between appointed officials and elected officials is that you can hold those you elect as a voter. The power you have is your vote. When it comes to parliament, I see a lot of members of parliament. They enter parliament riding on our poor peasants and the things we're promising them to do for them. At the end of 5 years, you see, we need this because my car, this car we're debating now, is going to be the ambulance for the whole constituency. It's going to be the one that transports all school children. It's going to be the one that transports the coffin. I am the one who's going to be, I'm the undertaker in my constituency. I buy the coffin and bury people. I pay school fees. I pay. When I thought the role of an elected official, like a member of parliament, Chris, you can help educate me on this, is to actually change that situation by ensuring that services are delivered and the people who are supposed to do their job actually do it and are held to account.
So Charles,
so when did that change?
We are, on this table I can see, we have the same goal that the ordinary person must feel government. What we are failing to understand is how the means through which that person will feel government. And we must understand public administration structure. We can't run away from it unless we run outside that system, which is so far tested. A member of parliament, if his work is to appropriate, by law, he cannot go and command the Minister of Finance and say, bring that money, I take to my health center. There is a whole mechanism. They have to wait for their platform, call on them to a committee to answer questions. They answer questions, make a recommendation. This must be done. They don't do it. If the MP has made a recommendation, this should be done. What more do you expect him to do? That's why I asked in the beginning, do we want to see them go to Mulago Hospital, enter the ward, those who are doctors begin putting syringes because the nurses are not working? Do we want them to drive graders?
No, if we saw them, we saw them outraged,
we want here.
If we saw them outraged,
now
and debating and holding national debate.
Now, Charles, again, we have been in the media, appreciative inquiry. It is not true, and no one should, in their correct sense, if you have gone to school, pretend that MPs have never been outraged. They just threw a bill you are not happy with. Who threw it? Was it councillors? The same MPs have been fighting for NGO rights here. the law that was coming against NGOs. And the Muslims know it.
They were debating the other day how to fix member.
The same parliament, I will get there. The same parliament stood few hours the way who were pro-NGOs and tried to pump sense in the Minister of Internal Affairs. So we can't say that MP's work is just to sit there. The media every day is covering what they are doing in the committees. The story of goats was everywhere. Where did it come from?
And then we saw the other day Parliament.
Why don't we appreciate that?
Parliament
I
debating
think we
how to
appreciate
control,
that.
how to fix the media.
Before even divert that, that one is also a misconception. But the issue which matters here now is service delivery. For the media, nothing is going to happen to the media anyway.
Let's come back after a short commercial break. We'll be right back. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we're discussing the NRM audit, Parliament on the spotlight, with Chris Obore, formerly a panelist on this show, now Director Communication and Public Affairs at Parliament of Uganda. Eunice Musime.
I'm still a panelist here. Who's a wall? Who's away without leave?
A wall without leave?
Yes. Just a wall.
The head of public service is watching.
You see?
And the Parliament
can
Commission might ask
the rules.
Eunice Musime is Executive Director at Akina Mama Africa, and of course, panelist Ona Peter Ekomloit, who is Corporate Affairs Director Nile Breweries, SAB Mela. Musa Lado is watching the show and says, Charles, would you work at NTV without facilities that would enable you work effectively as you do? That said, Parliament have a responsibility to be above self. Parliament should serve others before taking care of themselves. Chris, I want you to respond.
Yeah, which they have done. I've just read the budget. It shows you. But again, Charles, but also as Ugandans, the critics, let's also stop being double-faced. We cherry pick what we want because Parliament is top target. The other day I saw on TV, government forked out a brand new penconi for retiring Professor Gilbert Bukenya. I was happy. Retired, yeah. 400 million. And the same government has not yet paid thousands of pensioners. How many like journalists like to do? 400 million, how many pensioners would have what? Have served. But in this case, you are angry that a member of parliament who still has a duty with his constituency should not be given a car. So where do we get a line of what is wrong, what is right, and whom do we attack, whom don't we attack? So I think we lack also principal positions.
I think the problem is Ugandans out there, look, I was going to use a harder word, but they are shortchanged, whether by the executive or by the legislature or by the court system.
It is our duty.
They are being shortchanged at every corner. So they are boxed in and they do not know where to put those concerns. And the most effective place to put those concerns is at the doorstep of elected officials who sit in parliament.
Exactly. And
that's the first point of
call. And the elected officials are saying, please, Charles, we have done on the budget, we have done this. Can you help us? Because the media has power. Tell our voters that we have sent money to these ministries. This is what they should expect. We are not giving voters the other side of the story. That you know, while as much as your MP is supposed to represent you, if it is to bring a school, he has to divert money to Minister of Education, that he should bring money for the school here. We still make the voter believe that the MP has the power, like Ona says, to deliver a school. When we all know, structurally, MP cannot deliver a school. So we are also not helping the situation.
Let's back to the question, where is leadership?
Leadership.
When does leadership come in?
That is now the question. When you bring leadership, leadership is a very broad term. Unless you specify which leadership you are talking about. Is it parliamentary leadership, ministry leadership, presidential leadership, district leadership?
Leadership is
which
leadership.
One? Exactly.
Leadership is leadership.
Very good.
Yes.
At a local
you
level,
can split hairs about it, but it's leadership.
That is very good. Let me explain
right
it
now we are looking at parliament.
Exactly.
So we are asking, where is the leadership?
Where is the leadership for parliament?
Yes.
Why can't parliament provide leadership and say, the money for Bukenya's car, yes, it is provided for, but we don't think it's a priority today. The money for Nsibambi's car, yes, we know it's provided for, we don't think it's a priority. The money for Mama Mbaba's car, yes, we know it's provided for, it's not a priority. Our vehicles, we know we need them, but before we were in parliament, we were able to move. We canvassed the constituencies looking for votes without an official car. Now that we are there, we can continue to serve. And alternatively, we can buy a cheaper car. 100 million would be enough for us to buy a car. Why 200 million? Why 150 million?
But they are already buying a cheaper car than what the law would have wanted for them. That I began from there, Charles. they are already
No.
going for a cheaper car
But is
than
the,
what would be.
is the law cast in stone?
Exactly.
The fact
So
that members of parliament are entitled to 4,000 cc's.
Exactly.
We could do a Magufuli and change that.
As Wakinamu Africa, you now know how policy formulation starts. Why have you not demanded that executive, please, can you revisit this law, send it to parliament? Then you see how the parliamentarians react to it. Because you have known how legislation takes place. You are not an ordinary woman in the old sense. You know how legislation begins. And you know how policy formulation starts. Constants in public policy, issues,
Chris,
the actors, the institutions,
Chris, let me actually disappoint you. Many Ugandans will remember that this policy, that once upon a time, in this very country, members of parliament in the National Resistance Council, 1987 to about 1994. Yes, the expanded Resistance Council was 1989 up to about 1995 actually, when we got the constitution. They got vehicles on a loan basis. We know that members of parliament
Up
in
to
the
the
sixth
sixth
parliament
yeah.
got vehicles on a cost-sharing basis. We know that members of parliament
I was actually hounded with letters long after I left
exactly
parliament.
those vehicles,
those
they got and were written on because they had picked some of the money from UCB, and UCB had its logo on the vehicle until they finished paying a loan. We know that civil servants at some stage, I mean like ministers, got cheaper vehicles, Nissan Laurel, which was a much degraded version from the Mercedes-Benzes previous governments had run. And people asking, when did we degenerate to where we have to fork out 400 million to buy a PSA car, 400 million to buy this other car? I think it was actually Professor Nsibambi who said, because the roads are bad, we are doing those stories. Because the roads are bad, you need a car that can endure it. And you say, why don't you focus on fixing the roads before you focus on buying a car that can navigate potholes? And that's the kind of leadership people have been asking around parliament and saying, when do you show leadership and say, yes, we know this is what we need. Actually, it would help parliament avoid a lot of bad media, a lot of bad press. If they said, postpone the cars, let's first deal with the more important issues.
You are going back where I had an answer. I don't know why the word parliament is easier to say. That parliament attempted that. Honorable Barnabas think Casimir is your friend. He's still a member of parliament. He even did comparative studies that please, on vehicles, let us go this way. We don't need government to buy vehicles for civil servants, even MPs. It was defeated.
Who defeated it? Where was it defeated?
Laws come to parliament from the executive. That's why there is a leader of government business in the parliament.
So the problem is the executive.
I don't know why you want to place it, but I've told you, don't expect parliament, Rebecca Kadaga, to sit and issue a decree. Please, let there be new vehicles for civil servants. Please, let there be. That's not how parliament operates. Parliament is a bill is brought, the chance is given to debate, the majority take it, it becomes, goes to the president to assent. The president can still refuse.
Okay.
So why are you blaming parliament all the time?
Let me ask our viewers to join us in this discussion. The number is on your screen. You can call us and share with us your views on the parliament on the spotlights. Hello? We have a caller? Yes. Hello?
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 Hello, please.
Yes, we can hear you. Your name and where you're calling from. Keep your question or comment brief.
I'm Kenneth Philip calling from Fort Portal.
Yes, Kenneth. Go right ahead.
I'm Philip. I'm really disappointed with Chris Obori. Chris Obori, once he was in Daily Monitor, was a very good debater on government expenditure. But now, since that time when he was appointed as director in Parliament, he changed. But what he should understand, the argument what you are Mamusha raising, member of Parliament to get a loan, it's really a very good advice to the member of Parliament. The reason being is, one, when they get a loan, some part of their money can come back home, consequent to take care of their people who elected the member of Parliament. You know, Melabo, they lacked money to buy the cancer machine. If each member of Parliament reduce of 100 million donated to Melabo, it can be a very useful money to me as ordinary who elected my member of parliament and others. If you really, and other leaders, they get a good example from member of parliament, they also do that. But Chris is still arguing, why member of parliament? Let the member of parliament be the first leader to offer that, then others, they will follow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Do we have another caller? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes. Good evening, Charles.
Good evening. Your name, sir, and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from South Sudan. I'm called David.
David? Yes, David.
I'm sorry, and I stand to be corrected, but I wanted to meet Chris with me to this. How do we stand in Senegal or from Kampala just a car of 200 million at the same of someone MP from Kabong? That's one. And the second one could be, if this money, in my calculation here, it comes to around the 94 billion Uganda shillings. Is this money is within the budget allocation of the parliament?
Okay. Thank you very much, David, for your question. For your two questions, they will be answered. Do we have another call online?
Hello.
Yes, please. Your name and where you're calling from?
I'm calling from Martin.
Your name, sir? Yes, please. I think we're having a problem with that caller. Can you call back, sir, from Machinde? Can you call back? Maybe you'll be lucky. Can we pick another caller? Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ben, calling from Lida.
Yes, Ben.
I'm glad. I would wish to welcome Chris Obori back to the show.
He's listening. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. I 100% support Obori's argument. Really, the problem is not the parliament.
What is the problem?
The problem is the size of our parliament. And then the second point is the separation of duties, because really when you don't segregate duties, parliament and executive, of course we shall do nothing. We shall keep arguing over these things, but there's nothing we shall really realize, because when executive sends something to parliament, it is the same executive that sits in parliament to pass it. So you don't see any change. Because what they pass in executive is the same thing they will pass in parliament.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. Do you have another caller? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
I'm calling from Machinde.
Machinde, you're having a problem with your with the line there. I think the connection is bad. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir?
Emma calling from Bali.
Yes, Emma.
Great to listen to Chris Obori on the show today. But I have Charles, remember at the time you hosted Obori and he was grilling the former Director of Public Communication at Parliament around the same issue of parliamentarians, and there were pigs brought to Parliament. It surprises me today when we come here and say parliamentarians are entitled to the vehicles and all this, and yet they promise their people that they're going to work for them. And all of us keep looking at them, and Chris has just said, the authority comes through and it pushes it down. But it's the parliamentarians to bring the bill on table and it be passed.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma. Do we have another caller? We'll just take one last one. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please.
Hello?
Yes, please.
What? Am I online?
You're live. Your name and where you're calling from?
Okay, my name is Alex.
Yes, Alex.
I just wanted to comment on the discussion.
Sure, go ahead.
there are so many issues that are affecting the country.
We are listening.
Okay, the issue of MP's vehicles is even a no-brainer. We voted for those honorables. Let them be facilitated. Let the honorables get everything. Those are our votes. No one rigged it to get there. They got them there. We voted for them. Let them get the vehicles and they monitor and we progress and the country develops and we go to the third world, first world, middle income status. We should be discussing about poverty eradication, not how much. Let our MPs get their vehicles.
Alex, we're wondering how MPs getting the vehicles help you to eradicate poverty or actually keep you in poverty.
They will go to the village and empower people through mobilization.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, I think we got to end the phone calls there. That's a very interesting perspective, by the way. We can go to third world or second world, wherever we end up. That's Alex's opinion. Chris, let me start with you because you have.
She was being ironic.
I have the most questions, and I think I picked them. Let me start from Fort Portal. Again, it is the duty of the elite to disseminate the information that informs others in making choices. But if we decide to selectively choose information to impart on the people, we all become propagandists and become part of the problem. We all begin to, either MPs, elite, journalists, civil society, become the same, becomes a conspiracy to keep people not knowledgeable for exploitation. The issue here is not that it is to start from parliament, yes, but there is a mechanism how it's done. That's the mechanism we are saying. MP has to make sure that there is money for a health center in Kagote. But he cannot have that money. It has to be put in the Ministry of Health. And once it is there, he cannot determine how it is being spent until another report comes to them. Another one says MPs make bills. They don't. I don't know. We need to educate people. Maybe this is my work. I'm going to Mbale. Please, the person in Mbale, I have an outreach program I'm rolling out soon. I'll be reaching you to let you know how MPs are supposed to do their work. But if we give work to MPs which are not supposed to be theirs,
the guy from Mbale
we are not helping.
The guy from Mbale, Emma said, you, Chris Obore, was a panelist in this studio when we invited the Director of Communications at Parliament. And you grilled the director then over the very same issues. There were pigs that had been thrown at Parliament. Now you're defending, you're speaking the same language as the other person. But I think that's what Emma is saying.
Unless Emma is playing politics. I am saying, and here and now, that the dropping of pigs is not what I'm discussing here. It is the role of members of Parliament.
And so even then you discussed the role of members of Parliament.
No. The issue they
and they are
whatever they, I don't want to even discuss because I can see the purpose of such a question is meant to deviate from the substance to immateriality. So I'm intelligent enough to know that. But the issues we are discussing here are MPs caring for their constituents. And that's what I'm telling you, they do. How do they care for them? We cannot run away from the fact that these MPs can never manage the treasury. They don't. The collections or whatever is also declared to them. We cannot pretend about these matters and say they must know everything. No. So why I wanted an MP, for me, even me as Chris Obore, I expect you, the voter, to deliver an MP to Parliament, capable of internalizing the operations of government, capable of being your voice there. But if you have voted an MP there, then you begin lamenting the MPs are doing nothing. Rebecca Kadaga cannot appoint who becomes an MP. That's not her job. She deals with those who have become MPs. But we tend to think the behavior of Parliament is because Parliament is bad. Who constitutes Parliament? And how do you get recruited to Parliament? I can't be an MP. You can't be an MP there. There are two ways. Get appointed by the President to Cabinet and be shown as ex officio, or go to your constituency and get there. So when you get there, it is not me or Bore to say the decision of your voters is wrong. Okay? It is not me. I would be deceiving. I would be usurping the power of that voter. That's what I'm saying here.
So you're throwing the ball back to the voters.
Exactly.
On the kind of
because
people that
all of us are responsible in this.
Okay.
Because, Charles, if you say Parliament is useless, people are saying, let them donate that money to Molago. It never works that way. Even if, Charles, right now, we said all the 300 billion of Parliament, add it to education this financial year. Can you for certain tell us here that next year, all our universities, all our primary schools will be operating very well? It can't. That's not how it works. Because the same Ministry of Education is grappling with the unspent money. And we know it. So how does it become a problem for an MP? I would rather, Charles.
So what becomes the problem of an MP? Maybe that's the question we need to answer.
The problem of an MP, Charles, first of all, I want to make a statement. I would rather operate in a country with a parliament of whatever nature than in a country without a parliament.
Okay. Ona, let me come to you. What should be the primary concern of an MP and how should they go about it, given these kinds of controversies?
Look, this is really a battle of expectations about the MPs in a country like Uganda, whereby the system of delivery of government has, over the years, by admission of everyone, including the president, has not worked. And people elect MPs to make that system work. So I think one of the preoccupations of the MP should be to change the system. And that means, it almost goes to my idealistic view that the only way you could actually make Parliament effective if it was, first of all, devoid of its own expectations from the job. If people came to Parliament without perhaps seeking an income or any benefits, if they were kind of volunteers, if it was maybe that's utopia. But if you had it like a school board, a church board, where people just go and give a service and they don't get
you have no idea what the menace boards are.
I don't know. I know, but I know many school boards are quite, they don't take any allowances. Maybe then people will concentrate on saying, let's get the executive to work. But people are trapped in a lot of problems whereby they have personal problems. Suddenly somebody looking for a car, for example, perhaps ideal should not be in Parliament, because that's something which is given. People leave school, buy cars. Anyone should, in an ideal world, should be able to buy a car. But unfortunately, because of the nature of our economy, some people end up becoming MPs when they still need a car, when they still need a house, they need a lot of problems with school fees for their kids. These are human beings, so they get caught up in these challenges. So we have a Parliament we have. Unfortunately, we have to live with it. But if we want to change the situation radically, one of the issues is really remove emoluments from Parliament and have a Parliament of notables, people who can make laws and also maybe speak for the people without seeking a benefit. Because that contradiction is real. If you are seeking a benefit in scarce resources for yourself, and also you need to get it to the people, it's going to be a dilemma.
What should be the problem of our members of Parliament? What should be their primary problem? What should be concerning them?
I think listening to Onapito, what comes to mind to me is that you can't separate our Parliament from what's happening in our country. So actually looking at it in isolation, we sort of miss the point, because as a country we're at a place where so many things are not going right. There's a time when things were going right. People always talk fondly of the 6th Parliament and why it worked better then. And why did it work better then? We hadn't yet gone into this system of project of regime survival. But right now we have President Museveni, he must stay in power. And so everything else works towards him staying in power. And if it's not for him to stay in power, then it won't work. So, for example, when Chris was talking, I was just reminded, when government wants to be present, it will be present. When it wants to be absent, it will be absent. Because on Tuesday, women came together to demonstrate against the lifting of age limits from the Constitution, and the police was heavily deployed. It was very present. But when a woman is dying at a small health center 3 or health center 2 or 1 or whichever, government is absent. So we need to ask the question, why is government absent and why is government present when it chooses? And that goes back to the fact that as a country, we need to get to that point where we have a national dialogue on how we can put back our government on track.
Okay. Someone here says, hi Charles, they're very nice looking Land Cruisers from the bond at 70 million. Why can't parliamentarians consider going for those than a 200 million shillings car? Why rip off the people who voted them? Before they went to parliament, did they drive cars of 200 million shillings? Another viewer says, yeah, I think this is the same message from the same person. Let me see. I just need to take this. Yes, I think this is my friend Charles Ongole. No. It's not Charles. This is Nteja Simo. He says, I almost shed tears when I read today in the press Katuntu saying that shillings 100 million cannot buy a vehicle. We shall always miss the original Obore. Nteja Simo. Another listener here says, yes, Margaret Baguma says, Charles, I'm a fan of the Fourth Estate. Obore has gone and fallen in two things. Soon it will be on Apito and then you. What will happen to the Fourth Estate? Oh no. Chris, your last word.
Again, those are, me, I don't get deviated from the cause because I still believe working in the parliament or not working in the parliament, I'm a citizen of this country with the same entitlement as a citizen, with either minister, whoever it is, as long as I'm a citizen, that no one removes from me. But my concern is I now have to show a structured manner in which we can achieve tangible results. Otherwise, if we talk politics, we can talk politics from morning up to evening. There will be no tangible change. But I am a student of public policy. I now know how government works. And I'm saying, if we reorganize the government setup, we shall be able to create service delivery points that can be meaningful to the citizen. But if we keep telling the citizen, you know, your problem is this person, your problem is this one, it won't work. When we know government as it constituted today, a modern government, there must be a legislature playing a role different from the judiciary, different from the executive, collaborating on particular points. Otherwise, tomorrow, if judges, like the other day it was reported by a judge, that a judge spends 46 days working in a year. And there are how many days in a year?
365.
We might ask MPs again to go to the bench and deliver judicial services. Because we are always saying MPs must deliver services. Each arm of government has to play its part and collaboratively discuss a way forward. Okay. I'm saying the MPs as they are designed today, the issue of vehicles, like I began, if Mwangusha, you have a job to do, by the way, I explained the last time I was here. In the classical times, like what I was saying, the poor were not allowed to be in parliament.
Oh, really?
Yes. The Plateaus came back and said, being rich does not mean knowledge. The one can be poor, but has influence of the people at heart. So let the people choose who goes to represent them. But they are presented the problem. Musime might be a teacher in Moroto. He has never even been to Kampala. But it is the choice of the people of Moroto that go to Kampala. They say, let the state facilitate unis to go to Kampala on their behalf. And then go back to them. This is the genesis of the car business. Okay. But if we don't want that, let us say, let's have the Michael Ezeras only in parliament. Because they already have vehicles.
Who is Michael Ezra?
You know them.
Let's
have the tycoons.
Our time is out. We need to get out of here.
Let me see where we go. Yes. Which is impossible. That's why Alex said, these are our elected leaders.
I hope Alex was actually not just being cynical.
No, I know him. He's very honest.
Yes, but I think the bigger question is, where does the ordinary person, the voter, place themselves in this whole thing? How? I mean, our time is out. We need to.
They must use their power.
Yes, and
yes,
how do they use the power?
On MPs, on a councillor, on a district chairman.
When a voter says these are our bosses, for the elected officials who are supposed to be their servants, then I worry.
So the people get the leaders they deserve.
Exactly. Our time is out. We need to be getting out of here.
And that's not true. When the election is stolen, then you're not getting the leader you deserve.
Out of here.
Without the parliament, that's the option.
Thank you very much, Chris Obore.
Thank you.
Director Communication and Public Affairs at Parliament of Uganda. Eunice Musime, Executive Director at Kina Mamo Africa. And my colleague, Onapito Komolite. There is an interesting story. Why proposal to amend age limit law rises red flag? this is a discussion of the bill that the application by MP Robert Kafero. There's some detailed analysis.
And what was the ruling of the Speaker on that?
Yes, said, this is what the Speaker said. Let me see what the Speaker said.
Yes.
The Speaker said, looking for where the quote stands.
If we
If we allow this proposal, I will not have reason not to allow motions on other issues. Now I need to read the whole quote so that it is much clearer. Yes. The Speaker said, I have listened to the arguments and I have not seen the urgency. If we allow this proposal, the danger will be that I will not have reason not to allow motions on other issues. I defer this proposal indefinitely. Speaker Kadaga.
Was that a useless judgment?
And this is a debate about whether...
Charles, this is your paper. Charles, the Bureau Chief of the East African. Was that a useless statement from the Speaker of Parliament, in your view?
We'll discuss.
No, tell me.
I want people to read the story.
Acknowledge.
I want people to read the story.
Was that a wrong ruling from the Speaker of Parliament, Charles?
I want people to read the story
you see?
And understand, because the hidden, what people have interpreted as the hidden agenda behind this bill. Kafero spoke in this story, and extensively. He has his arguments.
I have just asked
which people
is Parliament useless by that ruling?
And there is the shocking tale of plunder, greed, and suffering. The story of South Sudan. Our time is out. We need to get out of here. From me, have a good night. Of course, our condolences to the people who lost loved ones, and congratulations. Congratulations to those who had milestones to achieve during the week. Have a good night.